Hi, this is Mr. West, and you are watching a Khan Academy tutorial on one-step multiplication and division equations. One thing I would advise you to do is watch my other video on addition, subtraction, one-step equations before doing this. I will reference that a few times, but if you haven't, I would like to start with talking about inverse operations. Inverse operations is how we solve these equations. Some of these you might be able to do in your head, but as we get more and more complex, it gets tougher to do, so it's important to understand inverse operations. So I'm referencing this to the right over here, where the opposite addition is subtraction, and conversely, subtraction is addition, and then the opposite division is multiplication, and how you undo multiplication, go in reverse of multiplication, is division. So these are all reverses or inverses, however you want to say it. And I think it's only appropriate that to start to understand this first question, we talk about Uno with Uno reverse, etc. Okay, so this equation is essentially saying we start off with some unknown number of cards, okay, playing Uno, and what we're going to do is we're just going to split that among 9 people. So you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people. So we're going to just take turns going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, okay, and we're going to see how many cards each person gets. Each person, if they get 9 cards, okay, so we gave 9 cards to this person, okay, to each person here playing Uno, how many cards do we start with? So what we can do is, if we're like, man, I don't want to just sit there and count all the cards, I know I gave it out to 9 people equally, how can I find how many cards we started with in a quicker way? We can just take one person's set of cards, those 9 cards, and what we can do is we can say, hey, I know each person got it equally. I'm just going to multiply this by 9, and that should give me my answer. And that is the quickest way to do this problem. And you can see that we get 81. Now, looking at it from an equation standpoint, up here, another way to write this is we have 9 equals h divided by 9. Okay, a lot of people get confused by this. They're like, oh, it's a fraction. How do I deal with a fraction? It's the same thing as division. So this and that are the same thing, and we can undo that process, just like we talked about in the last video on addition and subtraction, by doing the opposite operation, which is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides. That dot means multiplication, by the way. Try to go away from this and towards the dot, okay, just as an FYI. So I multiply both sides by 9. I can't just multiply one side by 9, because if I do that, it becomes unbalanced. Imagine if I had a true statement like this, 10 equals 10. That's true. But then I only multiplied one side by 9. Does 90 equal 10? Of course not. Okay, so that's not something you can do. But if you multiply both sides by 9, we have 90 equals 90, and it still makes a true statement. In this way, we would have to multiply both sides by 9, and what ends up happening is on the left side, that's the easier of the two, we get 81 as our answer. That's what we talked about down here. There's 81 total cards if we deal out 9 cards to 9 people. On the right side, what happens? Well, we get our answer h, right? H equals 81. That's our question mark, our unknown value. But why it works that way is divide by 9 and multiply by 9, they cancel out. Okay? Divide by 9 and multiply by 9 cancels out. And why does it work out like that? It's best to see it as a fraction. So if you have divide by 9 like this, and we multiply by 9 over 1. We can rearrange this. You got to think back to multiplying fractions here. Let me erase some of this over here. And we can rearrange this to be 9 over 9 times h. That 1 times 9 became 9 in the bottom. And that 9 can be in the top, and we can move that h out in front. There's just another way to do it. Okay, we could call that 9h if we wanted to. Either way, we have an h times 9 over 9. Now, what ends up happening is 9 over 9 can be simplified to 1. So essentially, if we have 9 over 9, we have 1 times h. 1 times h is the same thing as 1h, which is the same thing as just h. Essentially, it disappears. It cancels away. That's the whole point. These are inverses of each other. So if we do the opposite division with multiplying, it's going to cancel away, and we're left with our answer. That was a lot of information. The short of it is, inverse operations are the best way to do equations, and I'm going to show you how. Okay, well, here's another example. I don't have a particular situation for this one, okay? But we have 6 times something equals 48, okay? So we multiply something by 6. What's the inverse operation? The inverse operation is to divide. So I can divide both sides by 6. Now, I think this is a little funky, writing it like this, that divide by 6. So I think the better way to do it is like this, okay, using fractions. You almost never see it written this way in higher math. So just get used to it by putting it in fraction form. And the reason why I do that is because the 6 times g and the divide by 6 cancels away, and we're left with just g. Like I said before, this is equal to just 1. And 1 times g is just going to give me g. Okay, that's one way to think of it. Or just think, hey, the opposite of multiplication is division, and so that's going to cancel it away. Now I just have 48 divided by 6, and that is going to give me 8. And 8 is going to be my final answer. And you can even check it. You're like, well, I'll show you how to check it in the next one. So the next one, we have a divided by 7, that's how you read that, equals 9. So something divided by 7 equals 9. Now, a lot of students can do this in their head. They're like, oh, I know 63 divided by 7 equals 9. But always get in the habit of doing the opposite operation. I'm going to multiply by 7 to both sides. Look what's happening to A. A is being divided by 7. So then once we analyze what's happening to our variable, we can do the opposite operation to undo what's happening, so we can get the variable by itself. That's the whole goal, to get the variable by itself. We have A equals 63, and that's our answer. We can check our answer by plugging it in to our variable. So let's do that here. 63 divided by 7. Does it equal 9? Question mark. It does equal 9. Okay, so that's a way we can check our answer, is by just plugging it back in and seeing if it makes a true statement. Okay, so something times 2 equals 1. Okay, so we have 2 times e equals 2. Anytime the letter is written right next to the number, it's a coefficient. The number is a coefficient of the letter, the variable, and it means multiplication. So I can divide by 2 here. That cancels out. I have e equals 1. So 1 is going to be my answer. I can plug it back in to check. 2 times 1, does it equal 2? Yes, it does. Okay, here's the division one. I think you're seeing that this is way easier than you thought. I need to multiply by 5 to both sides. That crosses out. I have w equals 15. Final answer. I can check my answer. Does 15 divided by 5 equal 3? Yes, it does. And I can move on. Okay, let's do a couple more. 2 more here. And I have d divided by 4 equals 9. I can multiply by 4 to both sides. The reason why I'm multiplying by 4 and not by 9 is I need to undo what's happening to d. I only care about d. I don't really care about the other side. I forgot to do this too. My other video I showed that you should split it up into a left and right side. Okay, for those that are just starting. That cancels out. I have d equals 36. Okay, so on the left side, I want to get d by itself. That's where the variable was on the left side. The right side, I want to move all the other stuff on that side. So I have d equals 36. I'll do another one just to verify, show you how that works. Okay, so I have 9a equals 81. I have a left and right side. I notice the variable is on the left side. What's happening to my variable? It's being multiplied by 9. I need to do the opposite operation by dividing by 9 to both sides. Once I do that, I have the variable by itself on the left side. And on the right side, I get 9. So this is the inverse of the question we started with. Okay, and we get the same, well, not the same answer, similar situation setup. And I have a equals 9 on the right side, and that's my final answer. I can check it by doing, does 9 times 9 equal 81? Yes, it does. And I'm finished. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to check out the other video that I talked about earlier. You can ask for help on any of my videos by leaving a comment, and I look forward to seeing you next time right here on Wes Explains Best.